The Israel-Iran conflict is often portrayed as a two-player game. One side is the Islamic Republic projecting power through proxies. The other, a nuclear-armed Israel, defending itself from existential threats. But there's a third dimension to this rivalry, one rarely examined: the region itself. From Ankara to Riyadh, from Cairo to Doha, every major power in the Middle East is watching the fire. Some fan the flames. Others try to contain it. All are calculating. This is not just about Iran and Israel. It's about the shifting tectonics of the Middle East. It's about influence, alliances, energy, and empire. This video explores how regional actors, Arab and non-Arab, Sunni and Shiite, authoritarian and nominally democratic, interpret, exploit, and fear the Iran-Israel shadow war. For decades, Saudi Arabia and Iran have waged their own Cold War, a rivalry over who leads the Islamic world. One is the Sunni guardian of Mecca, the other a Shiite revolutionary state. To Saudi leaders, Iran is an existential threat, not because of its weapons but its ideas. The Islamic Republic openly challenges the monarchy model, supports Shiite minorities across the Gulf, and accuses Riyadh of hypocrisy. In this light, Israel is not a friend, but a convenient counterbalance. For years, Saudi officials condemned Zionism in public while engaging in quiet coordination behind the scenes. Shared intelligence, back-channel diplomacy, mutual enemies, especially in Syria, Yemen, and the Red Sea. The Abraham Accords did not include Riyadh. But normalization is no longer a taboo, especially with Iran's growing missile arsenal and nuclear ambitions. Still, the Saudi public is uneasy. The monarchy must walk a tightrope, court Israeli and U.S. support while appeasing domestic and regional anti-Zionist sentiment. The smaller Gulf states, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, each play their own game. The UAE and Bahrain have fully normalized relations with Israel. The reason? Trade, security tech, and above all, fear of Iran. Iran-backed militias have targeted Gulf tankers and oil fields. Tehran exerts influence across the Strait of Hormuz. For Gulf rulers, Israeli tech and American protection offer a shield and an economic opportunity. But not everyone agrees. Qatar, which hosts U.S. bases but maintains relations with Iran, walks a tight line. It funds Hamas, challenges Saudi narratives, and positions itself as a mediator, a role reinforced by its ownership of Al Jazeera. Oman, traditionally neutral, facilitates dialogue. In 2015, it hosted secret U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. It fears instability more than ideology. The Gulf sees the Iran-Israel conflict less as a religious war and more as a strategic chessboard, where survival means staying relevant and flexible. Turkey, under President Erdogan, plays an increasingly independent and opportunistic role in regional conflicts, and the Iran-Israel feud is no exception. Officially, Turkey criticizes Israeli policies in Gaza and presents itself as a champion of the Palestinian cause. But it also maintains trade ties and has cooperated with Israel on intelligence and defense in the past. Iran, meanwhile, is both a rival and a partner. The two countries back opposite sides in Syria but coordinate in energy and trade. Turkish businesses profit from sanctions loopholes. Ankara's goal is simple: regional leadership. To replace fading American hegemony with Turkish influence. Whether that means opposing Iran or Israel depends on the day. For Erdogan, the conflict is a tool to mobilize support, deflect from domestic crises, and project power abroad. Egypt, once the leader of the Arab world, now plays a cautious game. It signed peace with Israel in 1979 and relies on U.S. military aid. But the Egyptian street remains deeply anti-Zionist. The Sisi regime, authoritarian and anti-Islamist, sees Iran's influence in Gaza, through Hamas, as a threat. But it also fears Israeli escalation. Cairo wants quiet borders, not ideology. Syria is different. After a brutal civil war, Iran helped keep Bashar al-Assad in power. Israel has responded by bombing Iranian positions hundreds of times. Damascus is a battlefield in the shadow war. Iraq is even more complex. U.S. invaded, fragmented, and unstable, it's home to both Iranian-backed militias and U.S. forces. Israeli strikes have reportedly targeted weapons convoys in Iraq. Tehran sees Baghdad as part of its sphere. Israel sees it as another front. In both Syria and Iraq, civilians suffer while foreign powers settle scores. Caught in the middle are the Palestinians. The original cause now reduced to a pawn. For Iran, Palestine is a revolutionary symbol, a justification for resistance, a way to claim leadership in the Muslim world. Tehran funds groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad, even though they are Sunni and ideologically different. Arab regimes once claimed to support the Palestinians. Today, many normalize with Israel while offering little more than statements. Palestinians have become a litmus test, a measure of hypocrisy. To many in the region, the Iran-Israel conflict is proof that the Palestinian cause has been hijacked, used, and abandoned. Russia sees the Israel-Iran conflict as both a threat and an opportunity. As a close ally of Iran and the Assad regime, Moscow supports Tehran's regional role, but not unconditionally. Russian forces in Syria have often stood by as Israeli jets bomb Iranian positions. Why? Because Russia's primary goal is control. Control over Syria, over escalation, over outcomes. Moscow doesn't want a full-scale war that could draw in NATO, but it does want to keep the US distracted and discredited in the region. China plays the long game. Unlike Russia, it avoids military entanglement. But through massive infrastructure deals, oil contracts, and diplomatic overtures, including brokering the Iran-Saudi détente in 2023, Beijing positions itself as a stabilizing superpower. China needs regional stability to secure its energy flow and expand its Belt and Road Initiative. The last thing it wants is war between its two key partners, Israel and Iran. To both Russia and China, the Iran-Israel conflict is a lever. A way to undermine U.S. influence while expanding their own, economically, diplomatically, and strategically. Pakistan, a nuclear-armed Islamic republic, walks a cautious line. It has no formal relations with Israel and officially supports the Palestinian cause. Yet its foreign policy is shaped more by its rivalry with India and its ties with Saudi Arabia, China, and increasingly the UAE. Pakistan and Iran share a long border, often tense. Iran accuses Pakistan of harboring Sunni militants. Pakistan accuses Iran of interfering in Balochistan. But both avoid open confrontation. In any Iran-Israel escalation, Islamabad would avoid direct involvement, but could play a role in back-channel diplomacy or as a conduit for other powers. Azerbaijan is a different story. A Shia-majority state with strong ties to Israel, especially in defense and energy. Israeli drones and surveillance systems played a major role in Azerbaijan's wars against Armenia. Iran views this relationship with growing alarm. Tensions flared in 2023 when Iran accused Azerbaijan of allowing Israeli spies near its borders. In response, Tehran held military drills. Baku, emboldened by Turkey and Israel, pushed back diplomatically. In the South Caucasus, the Iran-Israel rivalry opens a new front, one that could spill over into ethnic and territorial disputes. The Israel-Iran conflict is more than a rivalry. It is a pressure point in a region, and a world, defined by intervention, ambition, and fear. Every country watches the fire through its own lens. Some prepare for war. Some profit from it. Some pray for calm. The question is not just what Iran or Israel will do next, but what Russia, China, Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and others will tolerate, encourage, or resist. In the Middle East and beyond, peace does not come from victory. It comes from balance, justice, and the courage to reject manipulation from within and without. Until then, the fire burns and the watchers watch.